Their target is 2,500 meters out with a 10-knot crosswind. It is physically impossible to hit with this platform. The complaint screamed from the mouth of Captain Miller, the lead instructor of the elite sniper division. He threw his cap into the red dust of the firing range, his face flushed with the heat and the humiliation of the day. Beside him, 3 of the best shooters in the division lay prone, sweating through their ghillie suits, staring defeatedly through their optics. They had fired 20 rounds between them. Not one had even grazed the steel silhouette sitting like a mocking speck on the distant hillside. General Sterling stood behind them, his arms crossed, his face a mask of stone. He wasn't interested in excuses. He needed results. This was the final qualification for an undisclosed Black Ops mission, and his best men were failing. "Impossible is just a word used by men who miss," Sterling growled, his voice low but cutting through the wind. "Reset the bolts. Do it again." In the background of this high-stakes drama, a rusted metal cart squeaked along the gravel path. Pushing it was Saul, the base's 79-year-old mess hall cook. Saul was a ghost in the machine of the military base, a man everyone saw but no one noticed. He was small, slightly hunched, with a face that looked like crumpled leather and a white apron permanently stained with grease and tomato sauce. He was there to bring iced water and sandwiches to the officers, a task he performed with a slow, shuffling quietness. He stopped the cart a few yards behind the general, pouring water into paper cups with hands that looked too gnarled to hold a ladle, let alone a rifle. "Water, sirs," Saul rasped, his voice sounding like dry leaves crunching underfoot. Captain Miller spun around, happy to have a target he could actually hit. "Not now, Saul. Can't you see we're in the middle of a crisis? Get that cart out of the firing line before you rattle someone's focus." Saul didn't flinch. He just nodded slowly, placing a cup on the table. He looked out toward the distant ridge, squinting against the harsh sun without shading his eyes. "Wind ain't 10 knots, Saul mumbled, almost to himself. "It's swirling in the canyon, 14 knots, maybe 15 at the apex." Miller froze. The audacity of the cook, the man who made meatloaf and scrubbed pots, correcting the calculation of a Special Forces sniper, was laughable. "Excuse me," Miller scoffed, stepping into Saul's personal space. "Did the grease fumes finally get to your brain, old man? You're telling me how to read a wind trace? Go back to your soup." The other soldiers snickered, the tension breaking for a moment at the expense of the elderly janitor cook. "I'm just saying," Saul said, his tone flat and devoid of ego. "You're aiming for where the wind is here. You need to aim for where the wind is there. 2 mils left, 1 up for the humidity." "Get him out of here," Miller barked to her. "Sergeant." "He's senile." But General Sterling raised a hand. "Hold." The general turned slowly to face the cook. Sterling had been on this base for only a month, transferred from the Pentagon to oversee this specific unit. He didn't know the staff well. He looked at Saul, really looked at him, for the first time. He saw the grease stains, yes. But he also saw how Saul stood. His feet were planted shoulder-width apart. His breathing was rhythmically slow, unnaturally calm for an old man being yelled at by a captain. "You think you can make that call, Cook?" Sterling asked. "I think physics is physics, General," Saul replied, meeting the general's gaze with eyes that were startlingly clear. "Bullet don't care who pulls the trigger. It only cares about the math." The general let out a short, dry laugh. "All right, Miller, stand down." He gestured to the empty shooting mat. "You say it's a 14-knot swirl. Prove it." The range went silent. The disrespect from the younger soldiers was palpable. "Sir, you can't be serious," Miller protested. "That rifle is a classified prototype. We can't let a civilian, a cook, handle it. The recoil alone will dislocate his shoulder." "It's an order, Captain," Sterling said. "If he misses, he's fired and banned from the range. If he hits it, well, then you have a lot of explaining to do." Saul didn't say a word. He wiped his hands on his dirty apron, leaving a smear of flour on the fabric. He walked over to the mat. His movements were slow, agonizingly stiff as he lowered himself to the ground. The soldiers rolled their eyes. It took him a full minute just to get into the prone position. "Need a pillow for your knees, Grandpa?" one sniper whispered. Saul ignored him. He pulled the rifle stock into his shoulder. It was a heavy, long-range tactical chassis, a weapon designed for the modern warrior. Saul's cheek welded to the stock, and then the change happened. It was subtle at first, then terrifyingly obvious to the trained eye. The tremor in Saul's hands vanished. His hunched back flattened. His breathing became so shallow it was invisible. He didn't just hold the rifle, he integrated with it. He reached up and adjusted the scope turrets. Click, click, click. 2 mils left. 1 up. Just like he said. "Chamber is hot," Saul whispered. The voice was different now. It wasn't the raspy voice of a servant. It was the cold, command voice of a predator. He didn't fire immediately. He waited. He watched the heat shimmer, the mirage, dancing over the valley floor. He was waiting for the lull, the space between the gusts. The young snipers were exchanging confused glances. They expected him to just blast away. But Saul was hunting. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. The general watched Saul's trigger finger. It was placed perfectly on the pad, taking up the slack. Boom! The rifle roared, kicking up a cloud of dust around the old man. The sound rolled down the valley like thunder. Every head turned to the Tian, spotting scope monitors. The flight time for a shot that distance is several seconds. It feels like a lifetime. "Impact," the spotter called out, his voice cracking with disbelief. "Target. Target destroyed. Center mass. Dead center." A hush fell over the range. It was a silence so profound you could hear the wind that Saul had just conquered. The steel target, 2 miles away, had been painted with a fresh lead mark right in the kill zone. Saul didn't celebrate. He didn't cheer. He simply opened the bolt, ejected the spent casing, and slowly stood up, dusting off his knees. He looked small and frail again. "It was 14 knots, Saul said to Miller, who was standing with his mouth agape, pale as a sheet. "Wind picks up speed in the draw." Saul turned to go back to his water cart, but General Sterling grabbed his arm. The general's grip was tight. Sterling was staring at a scar on Saul's forearm, revealed when his sleeve had ridden up during the shot. It was a jagged, star-shaped burn scar. "Where did you get that?" Sterling asked, his voice trembling slightly. Saul pulled his arm back, covering the mark. "Kitchen accident, sir." "Hot grease." "Bullshit," Sterling whispered. The general stepped back, his eyes wide with a sudden, dawning realization. He looked from the target to the old man, putting the pieces together. The unnatural stillness, the wind call, the scar. "The Valley of Tears," Sterling said. 1972, Operation Silent Thunder." Saul froze. He didn't turn around. "I don't know what you're talking about, General." "There was a sniper," Sterling continued, his voice rising, addressing the entire group of stunned soldiers. "A ghost. They said he could hit a target from a different zip code. They said he held off an entire battalion for 3 days to cover a retreat of wounded men, but he never came home. He was listed MIA, presumed dead. His call sign was the Ghost of the Valley." Sterling walked around to face Saul. "They said he had a star-shaped shrapnel wound on his right forearm." The general slowly reached out and pulled Saul's sleeve up again. The scar was there, the proof of a legend. "Sergeant Major Saul Berkowitz," Sterling said, snapping to attention. "My father was in that retreat. He told me the story every night before I went to sleep. He said he is alive because a ghost watched over them." The general, a man with 3 stars on his collar, saluted the greasy, hunched mess hall cook. "I thought you were a myth." The arrogant young snipers realized the gravity of their mistake. They had mocked a man who was writing the textbooks they were struggling to read. Miller looked at the ground, shame burning his face. He walked forward, removing his own cap. I didn't know," Miller stammered. "I told you to go flip burgers." Saul looked at the captain, his eyes kind but weary. "I like flipping burgers, son. It's peaceful. The onions don't shoot back." Saul sighed, looking at the general. "I put the rifle down to sigh. Long time ago, General. Too many ghosts in the scope. I just wanted to serve the coffee." "You just taught my best men the most important lesson of their lives," Sterling said, "and you showed them what a real shot looks like." The general turned to his men. "You want to be elite? You want to be the best? Then you learn from him. From this moment on, Saul doesn't push the cart. He runs the range. Is that understood?" "Yes, sir," the platoon shouted in unison, the volume deafening. Saul shook his head, a small, crooked smile appearing on his face. "I'll help him, General, but I'm keeping the apron. The meatloaf isn't going to cook itself." Saul turned and grabbed the handle of his rusted cart. As he pushed it away, the wheels squeaking in the quiet aftermath, the soldiers didn't see a cook anymore. They saw a titan. They saw the ghost, and as he walked away, into the heat of the afternoon, the general kept his salute held high until Saul disappeared around the corner. It is easy to judge by appearance. It is easy to think that strength belongs only to the young and the loud. But the most dangerous warriors are often the quietest. They are the ones who have nothing left to prove. Respect isn't about the rank on your collar. It's about the competence in your soul and the history in your hands. If you believe that our veterans carry wisdom, we can't afford to ignore. And if this story made you think twice about who you might be underestimating, please subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who needs to see it. Honor the past. Respect the legends. I'll see you in the next one.